Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Max Rounds 30 podcast. Of course, there isn't any overtime because this is a 30-minute long show about all of this week's Counter-Strike Global Offensive content in North America. So with me today, as usual, I am joined by Koi from MTU Esports, Jeff from Dust2 US, and myself, Caster Guy Thing Dude. So in 30 minutes, of course, we'll be covering all of this week's content. So let me hit that timer. Let's get ourselves rolling. We are in week 1. We did week 0 last time around, so timer is now rolling. 30 minutes on the clock. Let's get into this past week's news. So, of course, we'll start off with some roster changes / org changes. And to get the ball rolling, let's touch on Party Astronauts. So they added Viz to their roster after his, I don't know if you'd call it timely or untimely.
Unceremonious. Just like
boot
bye guys,
from
I'm
Triumph.
leaving. Triumph didn't say anything, yeah.
Yeah, this is a little weird. We never really got a official buy Viz post on the Triumph socials, did we?
You know it's bad when
No, I don't think we did.
you know it's bad when you're a player who gets even less of a setup than 60. Like that's how you know that's how you know there's trouble in Triumph Town. Like
It's a little bit weird. But so despite the Triumph stuff, what are our thoughts on the addition to Party Astronauts?
I think Viz is a really good player. It's just like it was something about that Triumph roster that just didn't click at the time, and I think that he's a better player than he looks like when he was on Triumph, and so the way that High Coast plays is very different, and so it'll be really interesting to see, or ex High Coast now, Party Astronauts. So it'll be really fun to see what sort of things he brings to the table.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it's probably it's like an inoffensive move. Like if you had to find a player who is a free agent on short notice, Viz is probably the best player you could pick up. I don't know. I really liked him prior to Triumph. It's like Koi said, he didn't really stand out on Triumph, but that could have just been a role mismatch / it was kind of his first like real big team. I think when we're discussing this though, like we sort of need to look at the team as an aggregate now because now we know what the full lineup's going to be. So obviously it's Ben Leet, Ponalone, DJ, Infinite, and Viz. So what are we thinking about in terms of like how does this compare to the old High Coast lineup?
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, of course, the loss of both MOTM and RCF is kind of huge. Although adding Infinite does bring a lot of experience to that roster. I mean, the whole roster in general is not fairly inexperienced by any measure, but I think losing an opera like RCF and then losing MOTM is going to hurt, of course, but I think kind of like what Jeff was saying earlier, it's inoffensive to say the least, in my opinion.
They're probably still one of the better teams in Premier. I think obviously DJ can just sort of come back into this roster and plug and play his old spots most likely. So like he's already on board with the project, and then Viz has been actively playing the entire season. So I think the main question for me is like with Infinite is how long are we going to wait for him to sort of ramp up and get back to be a CS:GO pro again? Because obviously he was having his little jaunt through the forest in Valorant, and then his untimely demise from the scene by being thrown out the window at Energy headquarters. So that's like the big question for me is when is he going to come online and be the player that like we know he can be?
Sorry, go ahead.
Preface what you were gonna say, Koi, really quick, because I just want to preface. I think you have to fight Monster or something as well.
This is true.
Podcast. So I just want to preface. I think we should I think you should add that to whatever commentary you add here.
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, just gonna go ahead and say that I don't know the term or the team's internal dynamics, and I obviously can't know them unless I'm like around more. I only watch the games basically. And so, from an outside perspective, it actually feels like this team might not have maybe the same like skill like peak, like skill ceiling, but at the same time, it's a lot more, in theory, emotionally stable of a team. Like I think Viz is a very solid role player. I think that Infinite is just a stellar performer if he finds his spot. Whereas MOTM and RCF, like they either had fantastic games or they had games where they were, getting countered easily or something like that, or they weren't hitting shots. And so this level of consistency might help them go forward. I'm especially excited to see, our one true savior, Lord DJ, absolutely pop off. He's the best player. So
This guy has no convictions. He'll just say whatever people on Twitter want him to say.
No. I've talked in DMs a little bit, and Munster has some plans for that team, and so I'm excited to see how they work out. And that's all I can say, really.
And then, can I add to that really quick too?
Are you ready to
I
repent?
also want to say, I kind of feel like, what you're saying with like that baseline consistency. The big issue when they were with High Coast was that they would always be losing to just like random teams and like cash cups, or like, they never had that baseline performance. So I definitely agree with you there. And I think that while we might not see that peak,
I think their skill floor has raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like DJ coming back is probably the Pono and Bentley being like, okay, we kind of maybe underestimated what you brought to the team, because back in the New England Whaler times, like they were a very stable lineup. Like I don't think they were as like, I think they had less up and downs than when they were with High Coast, and I wonder how much of a role DJ had in that sort of setup where they were very consistent, and we didn't really see them like losing to random advanced teams or random lower level premier teams back then.
Yeah.
No able esports here.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't have any more thoughts on that, we do move on to our next eloquently named team. The next roster change we'll be kind of covering is Magic School Bus with the addition of Caber. So this is X-Levitate, but let's move on to the new name because, of course, we don't want to be giving old orgs free advertising. So
I mean, we don't want to give it. I mean, this new team apparently doesn't want to give themselves advertising either because, hey guys, maybe stop choosing fucking copyrighted names to base your teams around. Like,
Yeah.
generate your own brand instead of. No,
I can't talk because I named my open team Subway Sandwich Esports. So
no, but listen,
but yes.
It's now now HLTV has you called MSB, and it's like no one gives a fuck what MSB is, and your team's already not that good to begin with. So like you're not generating any form of positive impressions from the brand side or the player side. So it's like just come up with a different fucking name for once. Like, do you think Party Astronauts was like pulled out of the ether? Like, I don't know. At least
that one's like kind of creative, right? Because like when it comes to like Magic School Bus, like
it's
right. You have like, what are you gonna do if you make like, okay, here out of nowhere, like say they just like blow everybody out of the water in Premier and they make Pro League. What the hell are you gonna do with that name? You're gonna get sued.
Yeah. What if they go to the global challenge? Like, what if they go to the global challenge and Darth Mike's like sitting there on his little desk? He's like, Magic School. MSB, X-Levitate, yeah, X-Levitate, guys. Like,
yeah.
ESEA Legal wants me to remind you all that this has no affiliation with the
Have they
Magic
publicly like super hard doubled down on the whole Magic School Bus like branding thing, or is it really just like
Twitter?
One of those ideas that they were just like, we've got nothing else to do?
Does Twitter count as doubling down?
I mean. Yeah. I guess.
Where else?
I'm just wondering if anyone's actually had a conversation with them about how it's a bad idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there's only a couple adults in the room in the NACS like scene, so I don't know.
It's like 2.
I haven't had a talk with them. Hopefully, they watch the show and realize like the error of their ways. But just either call yourself X Team or come up with a new name. Just stop fucking like. Just try harder, everyone.
Right.
Speaking of, okay, now
see effort into it.
The real meat of this rant is, like I said in my preview I recently released, I feel like Caber is like a slight upgrade of Ghosty, but I don't know how far it moves the needle forward, and this team tries to be back in relegation again.
Yeah, they definitely showed like signs of life there in relegation, or towards the end of the season. Like they actually like were putting up some decent numbers, and like I think it was Hate that was just performing like just above and beyond most expectations. So I wouldn't necessarily write them off in a lot of their like mid Premier matches, but
I mean, I don't know if you've seen their group. Like, they don't have a lot of fucking wiggle room here. Like,
no,
they're in the
they
same group
definitely
with like
don't.
Party Astronauts, RBG, One, Pain. So that's 4 losses right there. So they go 0-4 already, and then they have 4 more matches. So their best split is 4-4, and they're probably going to go like 2-6, and that's relegation right there.
That's true. That's true. Although at the same time, it really comes down to how potentially inconsistent like Velas or Third Impact or something like I don't know. Like I definitely see them having an upset group or where they go 4-4. So I guess that's not really upset territory, but like I could see them pulling that off potentially.
They could have an average season.
Yeah.
They could be one of those middling teams that stays in Premier for 5 seasons and goes 9th through 12th every single season.
Hey, listen,
Fantastic.
if they're trying,
only up from here.
I'm cool with that, right?
I
Like if they're putting in the
yeah.
time, if they're putting in the effort,
I guess
that works
but
for me.
I don't know. Maybe just them calling themselves Magic School Bus, I think, sort of tells me like.
They could also just not realize that name is dumb. That is also a possibility.
Yeah, like from my understanding behind the players is that they actually are trying. Like they just for some reason chose the dumb name, but like it's not like they're like just writing off Premiere as like a joke or anything like that. So I'm gonna hold out for them for now.
Always
Alright.
always the cautious optimist of the Max Run 30 podcast.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You're just a bleeding heart liberal who.
Let's go
every team
NA.
can make playoffs, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It can.
speaking of things, well, actually, no, this transition's terrible. I'm just gonna stop that right there. So, just like imagine, just like some dude just like kind of coming out of the coffin right now. We have Recon 5 with their new lineup after dying, being reborn. And then whatever, I don't know. That was confusing to say the least. I mean, we talked about it on last week's episode.
Okay, you're done. You're done. Moving on. Basically, all you need to know is out of the dust comes plus Wilkie and Slight minus Jasmine and Cobra. Bad move, right? Like they're not gonna be as good. No.
Not gonna be as good. Hopefully TY sticks around for the whole season, but we'll see.
The problem is he has said like if Saturn doesn't want him on the team, like he will leave the team, which doesn't exactly inspire confidence that he's going to be a long-term member of the team. And as probably one of the best players on the team now, you're just kind of like, this bodes poorly for future events.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see Wilkie get an opportunity on on a better team, but like it's
how
not
much better is it?
how much
really,
better, right.
especially
I mean,
if
it doesn't have Valens, so like
that's true.
Yeah, but they're potentially planning to remove T-Weiss too. So like it's not necessarily the cleanest upgrade that could have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm still holding out hope for this team a little bit. Like I think it's definitely a downgrade. I don't think they're going to make playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be relegated either. But all, like you said, depends on if T-Weiss decides to stay with the team and if Wilkie and Slight can sort of step up their play. Like, I don't know. I've been a fan of Slight for a while, and you guys have been a fan of Wilkie for a while. So I think that's kind of like the break point of this team is if those two can be equivalent acts to Cobra and Jazz Pimp. Now, I think that's all we really have to say about that, right?
Yeah. On paper, they're a downgrade. Hopefully, they prove us wrong.
Next up, we have Big Chillin have brought Switchy on as a coach, and I know Koi, you have some, let's say, controversial hot takes about it.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily sure if that's gonna be the way that that Big Chillin improve. I don't really have a whole lot to like go in detail about it, but like their group is frankly really stacked, and there's a lot of like those like middling teams, and Big Chillin in the past has struggled against those, and like they haven't really like done like they haven't made any roster changes. They brought on Switchy, who's
more of a motivational coach,
more of an emotional leader
coach,
than anything else. And so I'm not sure if they're really gonna have like that like tactical breakthrough or that even that like individual skill breakthrough to really like make playoffs or push for playoffs this season, which is fine. I mean, like they're a first season Premier team, like whatever.
Do you guys
their
think
group
like
has
their
that potential.
reputation is a bit bloated because of the Big Chillin' brand?
I
Like,
mean,
I was just thinking about that. Do you think people sort of expect too much from this team based on the fact that like it's a household name domestically?
I
I don't
personally
know.
don't. I
I don't
personally
think
don't.
so.
Do we love them? Like, do we love them too much? Because if this team wasn't called Big Chillin', like, would we have any really like? I don't know. I don't really
Well,
know
the
the
people
players
are
that
great.
well.
So let's put it this way. The people are like, they've been good members of the community for a while,
Yeah,
and that's
definitely.
that just kind of helps. Like, of course they've done a great job of building that image for them, but I don't think that's necessarily a reason to say that that's like a we shouldn't believe in them because just because they've done a good job building their image.
Well, I'm not
They just have
suggesting
to
that.
prove
I'm saying like
themselves now,
perception is reality for like teams like this, and I don't know if like their perception's being artificially inflated by like good vibes.
I mean, I think that's just like, they're like everyone's friend, it feels, right? And so you're happy to see them do well, but at the same time, you're not expecting them to go out and
That's
win every
true.
match.
Like I am
Like,
happy for them to be Premier.
I don't
But
associate the Big Chillin' brand with like being the best NA team by any means. I associate them with being a friendly face in NA, similar like to like Mythic almost, I guess.
a friendly face among the crowd
Of
the
match fixers and
fixers,
toxic
match
advanced players.
fixers, cheaters,
It's like, are we going
racist,
there? Are we going
Exactly.
horrifying transgressions of
Yeah.
the.
They're just homies, and I appreciate their existence.
I do appreciate their existence too, and I wish the best for them. I just
They
I don't
have
know.
they have a
Maybe-
tough group in theory.
They
I
sure
only
do.
say that
themselves.
because on paper it's what is it? Group A, in my opinion, is more stacked, but like there's going to be a lot of close games for
Yeah,
that Big Chillin'
definitely.
roster, and if those close games don't go their way, like it's kind of gonna be soul crushing at times.
I think yeah. So yeah, I think it's definitely like probably not going to win too many, but I mean, you're right. I think they're just a good team to have in the division because we know they're always going to be trying at least, and they're not just going to be like jackasses, or they're not going to release like I'm
Right.
sorry for saying the N word like twit longer anytime soon. So like, moving on. So we won't really be looking at the professional aspect of this. We'll look towards the sort of player aspect where Mythic have lost Adren and they're looking like they're going to be picking up Sluggy. Thoughts, feelings? Does losing Adren hurt a lot?
Yeah.
I think yeah. Congrats to him, but yeah.
This
Well,
Mythic
okay.
team, I think, might be in the worst spot it's been in like a long time
Right.
because I don't really know if Lex like can. I mean, no human on Earth knows if Lex can hang at the Premier level because he hasn't played in like 2.5 years. But my intuition just tells me that like Lex is kind of going to be dead weight for most of the season, and that as a result, you're going to have to like. And as a result, you're going to have to deal with Lex being dead weight. You're going to bring Sluggy in. Jojo, as much as I love him, he's not like a superstar player, so it's gonna like a lot of the responsibility is gonna fall on Flom to like keep the team alive.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So Mythic has been, as we saw like last season, like they were willing to bring in like fairly inexperienced players and actually like work with them, and develop that experience and that chemistry and that kind of thing. And Sluggy's like
he's pretty
kind
good.
of nuts. He's genuinely a gifted player. He just lacks experience and like the decision making and stuff that like comes with that, right? So if there's one team that I'd say it's worth taking and just seeing how it works out, I'd say Mythic would be a pretty good place for him.
I don't know.
And I think he fits that role somewhat.
Am I being a fucking downer here? Like, am I just Mr. fucking Sourpuss and like I just hate every roster move this week?
I don't like Lex being on the team, but Sluggy's not bad. I wouldn't write that team off yet.
And honestly, okay, not really a hot take, but just like a genuine appreciation for like what Mythic is kind of doing with like just besides just developing players from a skill perspective. I think it's also really great that they're developing players from a content perspective too, player branding perspective. They do an excellent job of like, I mean, look at where JoJo's gone from, you know, just kind of being middling in between from his time at Third Impact. I mean, he still has to update his Twitch panels because
Louisiana Bayou just hanging out like.
Yeah, so it's big props to Flam and crew for like what they've done with that. And I think that, you know, the loss of Adrian is gonna suck, but also we'll see, you know, like as talent develops. I mean, you know, their point here is not to be the team that is there to win, but I think that they still have a pretty good shot at playing some good games. So I mean, I think that's going to be at least an entertaining watch and something that's going to be very awesome for us to kind of watch unfold over the course of this season.
I just hope the Mythic Public Relations Department has investigated him thoroughly, so they don't have a three-peat of players with, let's call it, personal baggage. But yeah. I mean, it's probably like a status quo Parabellum move. Though the addition of Lex is probably more concerning than a removal of Adrian, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
Sluggy's good. Sluggy's probably good enough for Premier, but I just want to more rant about, you know, Lex not being particularly good. We kind of got to get moving here a bit. So let's talk about.
Always.
Yeah, as always, we drag way too early on things that no one gives a shit about. Speaking of something that no one should probably give a shit about, Choco Check has risen from the dead with a new roster consisting of Sixy, CJ, Rec, Jazz Pimp, and Stamina. And then also Exotic decided to play tonight, even though he said he didn't play anymore. So, you know, once again, we are being, you know, lied to and everything. We'll pull over our eyes. But let's pretend Exotic's out of the picture. Thoughts and feelings about the roster.
Why the fuck does this exist? That is probably my biggest. This is just dumb. Like, and for Jazzpim, from like just moving to this team, what the hell is this going to do for your image?
No,
this is stupid.
This is like so like yeah. For Stamina, I don't think it really matters because he was kind of stuck in advanced anyways. But for Jazzpimp, like Recon 5 was a good enough team. Like, and he seems to be the one that sort of perpetrated the death of the original lineup. So I don't really see like what his like reason to go to Choco Check is. Like, was he really that excited to play under the brand that is known for match fixing? Was he really excited to play for like with Sixy and CJ, who are fellow match fixing fellow travelers? And moreover, Rec already left his team. Rec made the conscious decision to come back. Like, are all these guys just so excited to like play? And they say apparently if Noserack gets unbanned, they're like if his ban lapses at the end of the month, like they're excited to play with him too. So it's like, what are you gonna bring like 4-pack and Rechi back next and just like pretend that this ever happened? Because like I just don't get it. Like why are so many skill players like Curry and Whippy and now these guys all like, well, we gotta get on with fucking Blood, Sweat and Tears, Rebirth, Choco Check. Like, do players just not have like good, like, is their prefrontal cortex just underdeveloped and don't understand like the consequences of their actions anymore?
Well, yeah, I mean it's always been like that.
That's just North American Counter-Strike in a nutshell. But like, seriously, like I just want to hammer that home. This brand was created entirely separate from Rebirth to be the home for the match fixers, essentially. Like, what the hell? This destroys your image.
It's a complete like. It's not even a brand. It's a complete like. It's a smoke screen. Like, it's a complete farce made up to like fool idiots into being like, well, they're sponsored by chocolate milk, so they're obviously like.
They're legit, guys.
Account run by a guy, run by who fucking knows who.
Sickening criminal lures children with chocolate milk, like.
Right, it just feels dirty. You know,
it's very clearly a team that isn't built around achieving like consistent results or like competitive results. Like it's literally just meant to be like a team that's fun for the players.
Excellence in the server.
Not to mention, they also lost in playoffs to a GDPR esports that was on the verge of exploding and lost a couple of players there. True. Or did they lose one or two?
Well, mind you, don't you guys think it's totally wacky and weird how they have a stated roster that they give to the HLTV and they just use different players and interchange parts randomly, almost like that would be a good way to disturb the betting odds or something. I don't know if I'm got a line here, but.
Oh no!
Yeah,
that'd be a pretty good way. That'd be a pretty good way to fuck with the betting odds right before a match starts, or once the bet's already locked in. Oops, Rec had some internet problems. Here comes Exotic. Da 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 da. Oh, here comes Ogre. Here comes Track. Da 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 da. Like, yeah.
Dude, it's just I cannot believe that we're still sitting here, and actually, yeah, the fact that we're still sitting here waiting for answers is
ESEC
fucking
needs
stupid.
to wake the fuck up. Like, if there's one thing like I want in my life before the end of this month, is I want ESEC to finally do something. Because mind you, everyone's like, oh, ESEC's risen from their grave, but it's only because of what Dusty.us did that ESEC has even any legs to stand on in North America. Like, they just got to sort of ride the wave of like good vibes with them being temporarily banned. But that wasn't dumb at all. Like, their report is still waiting in the fucking wings for an indeterminate amount of time. Totally 2 weeks on April 1st, but haha, I guess not. Like,
Guess that was the joke, huh?
yeah. Okay, so I think we've made our piece about Choco Check
Yeah,
and
we
how
gotta
we just wanted to
scoot
drop,
on.
we just wanted to drop dead and release all the players from their bondages, and we'll skip. So one thing we were going to talk about is MOTM to Triumph. It's not official yet, but I'm sure like we're probably of the general consensus it's a decent enough roster move. But we'll probably wait until it's official, just because there's rumors of other changes coming to that team. So we'll hold off and we'll wait till next week and see what happens in the climate. We're gonna just briefly touch on Oplano and RBG made it to the CS Summit close qualifier. I don't know if we have a whole lot to say about that. It probably wasn't a good debut for Oplano, despite them winning. I mean, because they barely beat a Triumph roster that was making their debut with their new roster, and that's supposed to be like a tier 1 Brazilian lineup, right?
Yeah. It's
probably
underwhelming.
It's probably a crime that they aren't using TRK and they're using like Lucas One or Leo Drunky. I think TRK is a far better player than both of them, and I think that ever since he's been taken away from Team One, his career's just been a hellscape. So I feel really bad for him.
Good pats
RBG
on the
looked
backs
good,
for
though.
RBG. Yes,
RBG did look good, though.
connected
Well,
here.
with Clasia, they're just ready to go fucking nuclear because you have Hex and Clasia, who are like two of the best young talents in North America.
Ooh.
And so like you put those two together and you just tell them, you just point and tell them to go kill, and it's like it's sexy. Like it's incredible.
If they
love
went
this
and made
team.
like some RBG like matte black merch with like some of like accents of their colors, I would totally buy like a bunch of their crap.
Yeah, I'll buy it all.
I'd buy some RPG merch.
Hold on, they have jerseys, right?
Yes, they do.
All right.
I'm just saying if they make like a slightly like kind of undertoned, a little less gamery version of some of their stuff, I would totally be in on that.
They do
like,
suffer from like what do you call it, like Sector 6 syndrome, where all your shit is like super gamery.
Yes,
that's true.
Yeah. Okay, so 3 minutes left. We are going to do our premiere season predictions. So we have the two groups here, and we're going to kind of just go through and figure out, where do we think that this team is going to kind of be.
Let's do it shotgun style, and you just tell me your 8 teams that get through playoffs, and if any of them are wild, we'll call each other out because we have 2 minutes left.
Okay, all right. So you know what? We're gonna put Koi in the hot seat right away. Koi, what are the 8 teams that you think are going to make it into playoffs?
All right. So from Group A, definitely Pain, Party Astronauts, RBG, and I think Team 1.
I have to. That's safe.
I'm just not sure about Team 1. I don't know why I'm not sure about them. They should on paper be good. They did suck in Europe, and then they came here, and then who they get clapped by in their in their debut here in NA. Like there's like some like Vicious Kitties or something. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, that was you're thinking of Imperial. You're thinking of Imperial.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the other.
Yeah, you're thinking of the team that has Fair, who's like ultimately incredibly washed at this point.
I was gonna say I don't think Team 1 has played.
They lost to Counter Nature.
Yeah,
that bad Counter Nature. That's like the French Canadian team. Yeah.
So I have reason to doubt them a little bit.
But who would you have in that spot if not for them?
Third Impact's gonna come up clutch. They're my boys. I don't know actually.
I'll second that. I'm actually gonna second that.
I would have Vala as a team if Team 1 didn't do it, because I think they're. No, I don't actually. I'd have Third Impact. I'm sorry.
I think it's Third Impact. Yeah.
No, I thought about it harder, and it's like I like both the teams. Third Impact is just better.
All right, minute 20 left. Group B.
Okay. Group B, definitely Extra Salt. Definitely Triumph.
Yep.
This
one's a bit fucking harder, isn't it?
If Recon 5 keeps T-Weiss and they just play as the same 5, I think they could do it. I think Secret Club could do it. And unfortunately, given the way that group plays out, I think Choco Check could make it.
Yeah, I
Squeeze
hate
in
to
there.
say it too, because if we run through like the teams in the group, I don't think GGPR are going to be very good this season because they've lost some of their best players. SKDC is still just a meme team, and we don't even think like this. The lineup they're using tonight is going to be their final form. Big Chillin aren't very impressive, and QC Clan are kind of just like a joke French Canadian roster where the gimmick is we speak Francais and we are from Quebec. Like that's kind of their whole shtick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way to completely annihilate them, Jeff. Yeah, I think that's kind of around the same. Those are about my same feelings. I think that with I definitely think Secret Club is going to be one of the teams that makes it in. I feel like they've still got a bit of a punch left in them, even despite some of losing Clasia last season. So,
True. They are back on the double wolf train now. So
yeah, 2 wolves. Wolfie and a wolf. We'll see how it goes. But that is the end of today's episode, or rather this week's episode. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that thing, do the social media stuff, maybe like our tweets, retweet, follow the account, that kind of stuff. That'd be really cool. Helps us grow and continue to bring this episode to you on all of our platforms. So thank you for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week for
When we
week
have
2.
When we are able to talk about matches that happen, and we can actually have data to back up our talking shit.
Yeah.
I like
everybody.
data. Peace.
Bye.